The massive circular chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in their designated seats, their voices mixing into a worried murmur. The Grand Hall, with its high crystal ceiling and floating light orbs, had never felt so tense. At the center of the chamber, High Counselor Rex stood tall, his gray skin reflecting the soft light as he addressed the emergency meeting. Our deep space sensors have detected an unknown vessel approaching our territory, he announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Initial readings suggest it is of human origin. Laughter erupted from several council members. The idea that humans, the newcomers to galactic society, could cause any concern seemed ridiculous to them. Humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, making them mere infants in the galactic community. Silence. Rex's voice boomed. The vessel's size exceeds anything we have encountered before. Our readings indicated measures 3 kilometers in length. The laughter died instantly. On the massive holographic display above, an image appeared showing a dark, angular ship moving through space. Its hull was covered in what appeared to be weapon systems, and its design spoke of pure military might. Far from this political theater, aboard the HMS Retribution, Admiral James Stone stood on the bridge, looking out at the endless expanse of stars. The massive view screen showed their destination, the Council's home system. His weathered face remained calm as he reviewed the mission objectives on his datapad. "Admiral," called out Intelligence Officer Kate Miller from her station. "I've decoded more of their internal communications. The Council is planning to pass legislation to contain human expansion. They're calling us a threat to galactic stability." Her voice carried both anger and concern. Stone nodded slowly, his gray eyes fixed on the stars ahead. "They fear what they don't understand, Officer Miller. Humanity learned long ago that size doesn't determine survival. Adaptability does." The bridge of the Retribution hummed with quiet efficiency. Unlike the chaotic council chamber, here every person knew their role. Sensors tracked nearby space, engineers monitored the revolutionary quantum drive, and tactical officers maintained combat readiness. Back in the council chamber, a small green-skinned representative named Tech rushed to the speaking platform. "High Counselor, we must act now. These humans have grown too bold. Their technology advances too quickly. They refuse to share their innovations, claiming patent rights and intellectual property." He spat the words as if they were poison. Rex raised his hand for silence. "We have contained other species before. Humans will learn their place, just as others did." In a quiet corner of the chamber, Ambassador Lee, one of the few human representatives allowed in the council, listened carefully. He touched his communicator, sending an encrypted message to the Retribution. Council confirmed hostile. Diplomatic options exhausted. Aboard the Retribution, Admiral Stone received the message. He turned to his crew, his voice firm but calm. "All stations, combat readiness level 1. Enable shield systems. Power up all defensive grids." He paused, looking at each crew member. The Council has made their choice. Now they'll learn that humanity cannot be contained. The mighty engines of the Retribution pulsed with blue energy as the ship accelerated. Inside its armored hull, thousands of crew members prepared for what was coming. The ship's AI systems ran combat simulations, point defense turrets tracked phantom targets, and marine units checked their powered armor. "Sir," called out the sensor officer, "Council Defense Fleet is mobilizing. They're forming a blockade at the system's edge." Stone smiled slightly. The Council was reacting exactly as expected, with overwhelming force and absolute confidence in their superiority. They didn't understand that this human vessel represented decades of innovation, countless breakthroughs, and humanity's determination to never be dominated. "Let them come," Stone said quietly. "Send one final message to Earth Command. Operation Liberty beginning as planned. Then activate our stealth systems and combat protocols." He stood straighter, his uniform crisp and perfect. "It's time to show the galaxy that humanity will not bow to tyranny." As the Retribution approached Council space, its massive form becoming a shadow among the stars, neither the Council nor their fleet realized they were about to witness the end of their era of unchallenged power. Humanity had arrived, not as servants or subjects, but as equals, and they would prove it with fire and steel if necessary. The Council's defense fleet hung in space like a wall of steel. 500 ships, arranged in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. Admiral Rex watched from his flagship's bridge, confidence radiating from his tall frame. "The human vessel has dropped out of faster-than-light travel," reported his sensor officer. "It's alone. Just one ship against our fleet." Several officers laughed, but their laughter died when they saw the size of HMS Retribution emerging from the darkness of space. The human battleship dwarfed the Council's largest vessels. Its dark hull absorbed nearby starlight, making it look like a piece of night had taken ship form. Weapon ports lined its sides, still closed, giving no hint of their true power. "Open communications," ordered Admiral Stone aboard the Retribution. "Let's give them one last chance to avoid bloodshed." The main screen lit up, showing Admiral Rex's gray-skinned face. His expression showed a mix of arrogance and contempt. "Human vessel, you have entered restricted space. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. The Council will decide your punishment." Captain Robert Wilson, the Retribution's diplomatic officer, stepped forward. "Admiral Rex, we come with simple terms. End your plans to restrict human expansion. Treat us as equals, not subjects. We prefer peace, but we will not accept chains." "You dare threaten the Council?" Rex's voice turned cold. "Perhaps a demonstration is needed. Show them our power." Before anyone could react, 3 Council ships broke formation. They turned their weapons toward a nearby civilian transport, a ship full of human tourists who had been detained when the crisis began. "Don't do this," Wilson warned, his face pale but determined. "If you harm those civilians." The Council ships fired. Their energy beams struck the transport's engines. The civilian ship spun helplessly, emergency signals flashing. Aboard the Retribution, Admiral Stone's expression hardened. "Begin rescue operations for the transport, and initiate Protocol Omega." His words carried the weight of Earth's final authorization. There would be no more diplomacy today. "Shields failing," screamed a voice from the civilian transport. "We have children aboard. Please." The Retribution moved with shocking speed for its size. In seconds, it positioned itself between the Council ships and their target. A soft blue glow surrounded the massive battleship as its shield system activated. "Transport ship Star Wanderer, this is Retribution," called Lieutenant Tom Baker through the emergency channel. "Activate your emergency transponder. Our tractor beam will bring you to safety." Rex watched in disbelief as a beam of pure white energy extended from the Retribution, gently pulling the damaged transport to safety. Impossible. Their shield technology can't be that advanced. "All ships, open fire. Show these primitives their place." The Council fleet attacked as one. Hundreds of energy beams and plasma torpedoes struck the Retribution's shields. The massive human ship didn't even shudder. "Civilians secured in Emergency Bay 3, reported Baker. "No casualties." Admiral Stone nodded. "Send to all Council ships. You fired on innocent civilians. You chose this path. What happens next is on your heads." He turned to his weapons officer. "Show them what one human ship can do. Target their lead vessels. Point defense systems only." The Retribution's hull seemed to come alive. Thousands of small ports opened, revealing automated defense turrets. Each one tracked a different target with perfect precision. "Impossible," Rex shouted as his sensors screamed warnings. "No ship can have that many weapon systems. No crew could control." The Retribution fired. It looked like stars were shooting from its hull. Each turret fired just once, but there were thousands of them. Small, precise beams struck the Council ship's weapon systems, engines, and sensors. In 30 seconds, 20 Council warships hung dead in space, perfectly disabled, but with no loss of life. "By the ancient stars," whispered Rex, watching his mighty fleet being dismantled with surgical precision. "What are they?" "We are human," Admiral Stone's voice came through all channels. "We offered peace. We asked for respect. You chose violence against innocence instead." The Retribution's main weapon ports began to open, revealing systems that made the Council's best technology look primitive. "Now, you'll learn why humanity survived wars that would have broken any other species. This is your final warning." The Council fleet's perfect formation broke. For the first time in their history, they faced something they couldn't bully or overwhelm. As the Retribution's weapons charged, the galaxy's balance of power began to shift. The space around the Retribution lit up like a new sun as hundreds of Council ships launched their full attack. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and exotic matter weapons. They used everything they had. The Council's finest weapons struck the human battleship from all directions. When the light faded, the Council forces expected to see the human ship in pieces. Instead, the Retribution floated unchanged, its blue shields rippling like water. In the engine room of the massive human ship, Chief Engineer Mark Thompson watched his power readings with pride. Shield strength at 97%. "Admiral," he reported through the ship's comm system, "their weapons are hardly touching us." Admiral Stone nodded on the bridge. "Begin battle phase 1. Show them what real combat looks like." The Council fleet launched its fighter squadrons next, thousands of small, fast ships that had won countless battles before. They moved in complex patterns, their pilots confident in their superior training and experience. "Enemy fighters approaching," reported Lieutenant Anna Cooper at Tactical. "Permission to activate our defense grid." "Granted," Stone replied. "Let's show them how humanity handles swarm tactics." The Retribution's AI defense systems came online. Unlike the simple computers used by the Council, this was true artificial intelligence, born from decades of human innovation. It could think, adapt, and learn in real time. Countless small ports opened along the Retribution's hull. From each one emerged a defensive drone, each smaller than a car, but packed with advanced technology. The drones formed a protective cloud around the massive battleship. "Impossible," shouted a Council squadron leader as his sensors detected the drones. "They're moving too fast. Their patterns make no sense." The space around the Retribution became a dance of light and destruction. Each human drone could think for itself, working in perfect coordination with its siblings. Council fighters, used to predictable combat patterns, found themselves hopelessly outmatched. From his flagship, Admiral Rex watched in horror as his fighter squadrons were systematically taken apart. The human drones didn't destroy the Council fighters. They disabled them with precise shots, leaving the pilots alive but helpless. "Status report," Rex demanded. "We've lost 80% of our fighter force," his officer replied, voice shaking. "No casualties, but, sir, they're toying with us. They could have destroyed every ship, but they're choosing not to." Aboard the Retribution, Engineer Thompson approached a massive cylinder in the heart of the engine room. "Admiral, the quantum core is ready. We can show them our main weapons whenever you give the word." Stone looked at the tactical display, watching the Council fleet's disorganized movements. "Send them one more warning. They should know what they're facing." The Retribution's communications officer broadcast on all frequencies. "Council forces, you have witnessed a fraction of our capabilities. Your fighters are disabled. Your weapons cannot harm us. Withdraw now, or we will be forced to demonstrate our offensive systems." Admiral Rex slammed his fist on his command chair. "Never. The Council does not surrender to primitives. All remaining ships concentrate fire on their bridge section. Nothing can withstand the combined power of our fleet." "They never learn, do they?" Stone sighed. "Mr. Thompson, power up the quantum lance. Minimal setting. Let's not vaporize anyone if we can help it." The front section of the Retribution began to change. Massive plates shifted, revealing a weapon unlike anything the Council had seen. Energy coursed through the quantum lance, making nearby space itself twist and bend. "By the ancestors," whispered a Council science officer, checking his readings. "They're manipulating quantum fields as if they were toys. Our most advanced research labs barely understand the theory, but they've weaponized it." The Retribution fired. A beam of pure quantum energy, precisely controlled, lanced out into space. It touched 3 Council heavy cruisers, ships that had survived decades of battles. The cruisers' shields flickered and died instantly. Their weapons went dead. Their engines stopped. The mighty warships floated helplessly, reduced to metal shells by a weapon that rewrote the laws of physics around them. How? Rex's voice shook as he watched. How did humans advance so far, so fast? The answer came from his own science officer. "Sir, I think we made a mistake. We judged them by their age as a spacefaring species. We should have looked at their history instead. They advanced so quickly because they had to. Their world forced them to innovate or die. And now, Stone's voice cut through all channels again. You understand what humanity truly is. We are not primitives to be contained. We are not children to be controlled. We are humanity, forged in the fires of our own wars, tempered by our drive to survive. And we will not be chained." The Retribution's quantum lance began charging again, its glow promising that the real battle was just beginning. The emergency alarms across Council space blared as their main fleet arrived through multiple jump points. 5,000 ships, led by High Commander Dax himself, emerged from hyperspace. The massive fleet represented the combined might of 30 spacefaring races, the full military power of the Council. "Behold, humans." Dax's voice boomed across all channels. His golden armor gleamed under the bridge lights of his super dreadnought. "You faced the greatest fleet ever assembled. Your single ship, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against us all." Admiral Stone watched the tactical display as enemy ships surrounded the Retribution. His expression remained calm. Lieutenant Cooper analyzed their formation weaknesses. "Mr. Thompson, prepare all systems for maximum output." The Council fleet moved with practiced precision, forming a perfect sphere around the human battleship. Their formation was the result of 10,000 years of military doctrine designed to trap and destroy any enemy. "Sir," Cooper reported, her hands flying over her tactical display, "their formation has 3 major weak points. Their ships are blocking each other's firing lines. They never learned to fight in 3-dimensional space properly." Stone nodded. "They rely too much on numbers, too little on tactics. Mr. Thompson, is our surprise ready?" In the engine room, Thompson stood before a new set of controls. "Yes, sir. They have no idea what's coming." High Commander Dax raised his arm dramatically. "All ships, fire on my command. Let's show these upstarts the price of defying the Council." Fire. 5,000 ships fired at once. The energy released could have destroyed a small moon. The space around the Retribution turned white with weapon fire. But something impossible happened. The Retribution's shields didn't just absorb the attack. They caught it. The energy swirled around the human ship like water around a stone. "Now, Mr. Thompson," Stone ordered, "show them why humans don't waste energy." Thompson pressed a sequence of commands. The Retribution's quantum field generators hummed to life. All the energy the Council fleet had fired was suddenly pulled into the human ship's systems. "Power absorption complete," Thompson reported. "All systems at 300% capacity, ready to return their greeting." Dax watched in horror as his sensors showed the impossible. They caught our attack. How? No shield technology can. The Retribution's response came not in words, but in action. Its hull opened in 1,000 places, revealing not weapons, but strange devices the Council had never seen. "Quantum mirror array activated," Cooper announced, targeting their command ships first. The energy the Council fleet had fired was sent back at them, but not as raw power. The Retribution systems had refined it, focused it, turned it into precisely targeted beams that struck ship after ship. Council vessels began shutting down by the dozens, their systems overloaded by their own reflected energy. No explosions, no deaths, just dead ships floating in space. "Stop this!" Dax screamed. "All ships, retreat. Fall back to." His words cut off as his own super dreadnought's power failed, its mighty engines silenced by human technology. "Enemy fleet disabled," Cooper reported. 4,892 ships neutralized. "No casualties. Remaining vessels are retreating." Stone stood from his command chair. "Open a channel to all Council frequencies. They need to understand what just happened." The Admiral's image appeared on screens across thousands of disabled ships. "Look around you," he said calmly. "Your mighty fleet, neutralized without a single death. We could have destroyed you all. Instead, we chose to show mercy." In his powerless flagship, Dax raged. "You barbarians, you violated every rule of warfare." "Rules?" Stone's voice carried genuine surprise. "You fired on civilian ships. You threatened genocide against our colonies. You tried to contain us without provocation. And you talk about rules." The Retribution moved through the field of disabled ships like a shark through still water. Its quantum lance powered up again, this time targeting the massive defense stations ahead. "Watch carefully," Stone continued. "Your defensive stations are next. When they fall, we'll head for the Council capital. You have a choice to make. Recognize humanity as equals, or watch your power structure fall apart completely." The quantum lance fired 3 times. 3 defense stations that had guarded Council space for centuries vanished, transformed into clouds of harmless particles. As the Retribution advanced toward the heart of Council space, messages began flooding in from dozens of member races. Not to Council leadership, but to the human ship. The words varied, but the meaning was the same. Perhaps it's time for a change. The Council's emergency chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 100 worlds shouted and argued, their voices echoing off the ancient walls. The mighty Council, which had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years, was tearing itself apart. "The humans showed mercy," shouted the representative from the trading worlds. His blue scales flashed with anger. "They could have killed our crews, but they chose not to." Meanwhile, our leaders fired on civilian ships. High Counselor Rex slammed his hand on the central podium. "Silence. The humans used trickery. Their technology violates traditional warfare protocols." From his position in the chamber, Political Officer Tom Baker of the Retribution watched quietly. The humans had been invited to observe this emergency session, and the Council's collapse was happening faster than expected. Traditional warfare. A young representative from the outer colonies stood up. "Is that why we're losing? Because we care more about tradition than effectiveness." The chamber's massive screens showed the current situation. The Retribution had disabled most of the Council's military might without killing a single soldier. Now it moved steadily toward the capital, unstoppable and precise. Baker touched his communicator. "Admiral Stone, you need to see this. The Council is splitting apart on its own." In the middle of the chamber, a hologram appeared showing Admiral Stone's face. The Council members fell silent, some in fear, others in respect. "We've received messages from 30 member worlds," Stone said calmly. "They're withdrawing from the Council's military alliance. They reject the policy of containing humanity." Rex's gray skin turned almost white with rage. "Traitors. The Council has protected you for generations." "Protected?" The trading world's representative laughed bitterly. "You mean controlled. The humans showed us something important today. The difference between power and strength." Baker stepped forward, holding a data crystal. "If I may address the chamber." When no one objected, he continued, "This contains evidence of Council corruption. The real reason they wanted to contain humanity wasn't fear of our technology. It was fear that we would expose their system of bribes, threats, and illegal trade deals. The chamber erupted again. Younger races, those who had joined the council in recent centuries, were especially angry. They had suspected corruption, but never had proof. How dare you? Rex tried to maintain control. Guards, arrest the human. But the guards didn't move. They had seen the Retribution's power. They had watched their mighty fleet rendered helpless. No one wanted to act against the humans now. On the Retribution's bridge, Admiral Stone watched the council's breakdown through Baker's transmission. Lieutenant Cooper, status report. Sir, we're receiving more messages, Cooper reported from her station. 15 more worlds just announced they're leaving the council. They're asking for human protection against possible retaliation. Stone nodded. Send them our terms. We'll guarantee their safety if they support the formation of a new fair alliance. Back in the chamber, the younger council races were physically separating themselves from the old guard. Centuries of resentment were boiling over. The humans didn't just beat our fleet, announced the Outer Colony's representative. They showed us that the council's way isn't the only way. Look how they fought. Advanced but merciful, powerful but restrained. Baker watched as more representatives moved to the chamber's left side, symbolically breaking from the council's authority. The old guard, less than 20 races now, clustered together on the right, their power visibly shrinking. This is your last chance, Rex warned. Return to your proper place, or face the consequences. What consequences? The trading world's representative laughed. Your fleet is disabled. Your defense stations are gone. The humans approach your capital. What more can you do? Through it all, Baker maintained careful notes. The council wasn't just losing military power, it was losing legitimacy. Each race that broke away weakened their authority further. Admiral, he reported quietly, I estimate the council will completely collapse within hours. Their own actions and arrogance are doing our work for us. On the Retribution's main screen, Stone watched the council chamber split into clear factions. The old guard, who had ruled through fear and tradition, now found themselves alone. The younger races, inspired by humanity's example, were ready for change. Sometimes, Stone mused, the strongest weapon isn't a quantum lance or advanced shields. Sometimes, it's just showing people there's a better way. As if to emphasize his words, another group of representatives crossed the chamber floor, leaving the old guard side. The council's power wasn't being destroyed by human weapons. It was being dismantled by its own members, inspired by humanity's example of strength with mercy. The council's capital station hung in space like a dying star. Once, its 100-kilometer span had represented ultimate power. Now, it was the last stronghold of a crumbling empire. The Retribution approached slowly, its massive form casting a shadow across the station's gleaming surface. Inside the station's central command, High Counselor Rex and his loyal followers made their final preparations. Activate the Worldbreaker, he commanded, his voice shaking with desperate rage. Show these humans our true power. Deep within the station, ancient machinery hummed to life. The Worldbreaker was the Council's greatest secret, a weapon so powerful it had only been used once, 10,000 years ago, to end a rebellion by destroying an entire solar system. On the Retribution's bridge, Admiral Stone watched his sensors light up with warnings. Analysis, Lieutenant Cooper. Sir, they're powering up something massive, Cooper reported, her eyes wide at the readings. Energy levels are off our charts. Whatever it is, it's bigger than anything we've seen. Engineer Thompson's voice came through the comm. Admiral, I'm detecting quantum instabilities. Their weapon, it's designed to tear apart reality itself. Stone remained calm. Send the message exactly as planned. Across every screen and communication device in Council space, a simple message appeared. It was accompanied by detailed technical specifications and sensor data. To all Council forces, we detected your superweapon research 3 years ago. We built the Retribution specifically to counter it. Final warning. Power down the Worldbreaker. Rex laughed madly when he read the message. Lies. No one knew about the Worldbreaker. Fire the weapon. Destroy them all. The station's surface split open, revealing massive energy collectors that had remained hidden for millennia. The space around the station began to distort as the Worldbreaker powered up. "Sir," Cooper called out, "their weapon will be ready to fire in 30 seconds." Stone nodded. "Major Green, you have permission to proceed." Inside the station, alarms suddenly blared. Council security forces ran through the corridors, responding to multiple breaches. But they were already too late. Major David Green and his Marine squad had infiltrated the station hours ago, hidden by advanced stealth technology. Now they appeared seemingly out of thin air, their powered armor making them nearly invincible to Council weapons. "Teams Alpha through Delta, secure the power cores," Green ordered through his helmet comm. "Team Echo, with me to Central Command. Remember, non-lethal takedowns only." The Marines moved like ghosts through the station. Their armor's AI systems had mapped every corridor, every defense, every weakness. Council guards found themselves stunned and disabled before they could even raise their weapons. In Central Command, Rex watched in horror as his security systems failed one by one. "Impossible. Our defenses are perfect. They can't." The doors exploded inward. Major Green's team entered, their armor gleaming under the emergency lights. "High Counselor Rex," Green's amplified voice boomed, "surrender now." "Never." Rex pressed the final activation sequence for the Worldbreaker. "Die, humans." Nothing happened. On the main screen, Admiral Stone's face appeared. "Looking for this?" He held up a small device. "We removed your weapon's quantum core an hour ago. Your own sensors didn't even detect our teams." Rex fell to his knees as Marine teams secured the room. The mighty Council, which had ruled through fear and power for 10,000 years, had been defeated not just by superior technology, but by careful planning and precision. "Admiral," Major Green reported, "station secured. No casualties on either side. The old guard is in custody." Stone's voice carried across the station's comm system. "To all Council station personnel, the war is over. Your leaders are in custody. Their superweapon has been neutralized. Choose now. Join the new alliance we're forming, or remain loyal to those who would have destroyed a solar system to maintain their power." Throughout the station, Council workers and citizens laid down their weapons. Many had served the old guard out of fear rather than loyalty. Now, seeing the humans' power and mercy, they made their choice. The Retribution's shadow still fell across the station, but it no longer seemed threatening. Instead, it represented something new: protection, justice, and the promise of a better future. "Send word to Earth," Stone ordered. "The operation is complete. The galaxy is ready for change." 1 month after the fall of the Council, the great chamber that once housed the galaxy's most powerful government now hosted a different gathering. Representatives from 200 worlds sat together, not in hierarchical rows as before, but in a circle of equals. The HMS Retribution floated outside, its presence now a symbol of protection rather than war. Admiral Stone stood at the center of the chamber, his uniform crisp but bearing no weapons. "Today," he announced, "we begin a new chapter in galactic history. Not as rulers and subjects, but as partners." The chamber's new design reflected the change. Gone were the elevated platforms that had placed the old Council physically above others. Gone were the barriers between species. Natural light streamed in through crystal windows, symbolizing transparency in all dealings. "The humans could have conquered us," said the trading world's representative, his scales gleaming under the light. "Instead, they offered partnership. This is why we follow their lead today." From his position near the main doors, Political Officer Baker watched with satisfaction. The evidence of Council corruption he had revealed had shocked the galaxy, but the humans' response had shocked them even more. Instead of using it for blackmail or control, they had released everything publicly, letting justice take its natural course. "Our first act," Stone continued, is to establish the Galactic Alliance Charter. Every member world has equal voting rights. No species can dominate another. Technology will be shared, not hoarded. Trade will be fair, not forced. Engineer Thompson stood at a new control panel, installing the Alliance's communication system. Unlike the Council's restricted networks, this one would be open to all member worlds. The quantum-based technology, once jealously guarded by humanity, would now connect the galaxy. The Retribution will remain here, Stone announced, not as a threat, but as a promise. Its weapons will defend Alliance worlds from external threats. Its laboratories will be open to scientists from all worlds. Its medical bays will treat any who need help. In the Chamber's viewing gallery, Major Green and his Marines stood watching. They wore their dress uniforms now, their powered armor stored away. Several young aliens approached them, asking questions about human military training. The Marines answered openly, another sign of the new era's transparency. Lieutenant Cooper's voice came through Stone's personal communicator. "Sir, the first group of alien engineers is ready to begin their training on quantum technology." "Excellent," Stone replied. "Make sure they understand. We're not giving them weapons. We're giving them tools to build a better future." The former High Counselor Rex and his supporters watched the proceedings from a detention center, their faces showing disbelief. They had expected punishment, revenge, humiliation. Instead, they witnessed something their minds could barely comprehend: genuine cooperation between species. "Look at their faces," Baker said quietly to Stone. "They still don't understand. They think this is some elaborate trick to establish human dominance." Stone nodded. "They never will understand. They can't imagine power without corruption, strength without cruelty. That's why they failed." The chamber grew quiet as the Alliance Charter appeared on the main screen. One by one, representatives approached to add their signatures. There was no order of importance, no special privilege. The human signature carried the same weight as that of the youngest spacefaring race. "We bring different strengths," Stone addressed the chamber one final time. "Humans bring innovation and adaptability. The trading worlds bring centuries of commercial wisdom. The outer colonies bring resources and determination. Together, we are stronger than any empire based on fear." Outside, the Retribution's quantum core powered up, not for weapons this time, but to provide energy for the Alliance's new communication network. The mighty ship that had brought down an empire now served as the foundation for something greater. To those watching across the galaxy, Stone concluded, "Know this. The age of dominance is over. The age of cooperation begins. Earth extends its hand in friendship to all who wish to build this future with us." As the session ended, representatives from different worlds mingled freely, sharing ideas and plans. The chamber that had once echoed with threats and demands now rang with laughter and excited conversation. Humanity had not just changed the galaxy's power structure. They had changed its heart. And aboard the Retribution, Admiral Stone smiled, knowing that the greatest victories aren't won through force, but through showing others a better way. The new dawn had truly begun.